Hi, my name is Al Manager. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of APTV. We have Tim McDonald from Fonda Restaurants. Fonda has 9 restaurants in Melbourne and Sydney. First one started in 2011 at the age of 27 or 28 years old. Quit his job as a lawyer after 12 months and decided his passion in life was to make Mexican food and create Mexican restaurants in Australia. So watch and listen to how this crazy idea turned into a pretty successful business, and the lack of experience was his probably biggest feature of his success, and some good advice along the way. Thanks again and hope you enjoy. Tim, you're 38 years old right now. In 2011, you're working as a lawyer at Minter Ellison?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. And where did you go to university?
I went to Monash.
Okay.
At Clayton.
And you decided, quit your job, start a Mexican restaurant in Melbourne in 2011. How did that happen, and how did you convince yourself?
Well, the story started during university. I studied over in the States and saw this boom of fresh Mexican, and that was in 2007. At the time, all I knew was Mexican in Australia, Montezuma's, Taco Bill's. It was that old, stodgy, sort of outdated, I thought, Mexican from the 80s. So seeing this fresh wave of Mexican cuisine in the States was just mind-blowing, and I immediately had this idea for a fresh Mexican restaurant concept for Australia. That was in 2007. So I was working on that up until the time when I started at Minter's. So when I did start as a lawyer in 2010, it was only ever going to be for a year. And even during that year, the business plan was sort of still progressing. The catalyst that really gave me the courage to quit as a lawyer was a conversation with my dad where I sort of changed the whole objective of starting my own business. And I changed it to realizing that I was doing this because I wanted to create something. I wanted to love doing what I do every day. And as soon as I changed that objective, I realized it was really no risk in what I was doing, because I knew that I was going to love starting a business and starting Fonda, regardless of the financial success. So there was really no risk in it at all, because I was going to love it. That really helped give me the courage to do so. I was also 26 at the time, no mortgage, no kids. Life was pretty easy, so it was a lot easier to do it back then.
When you handed your resignation to Minter Ellison, what did you tell them you're going to do?
I told them I was going to start a Mexican restaurant, and it was actually, it was really interesting. The head partner he thought it was a joke, genuinely.
Sounds like a joke.
And that was fine. I wasn't offended at all, and he didn't mean it offensively. He just said, I've been here for 40 years. I've heard lots of reasons for people to resign. I've never heard this one before.
How much cash did you have in 2011 to open your first store?
I had nothing. I borrowed money from my parents.
Do you mind if I ask how much?
I borrowed $90,000 from my parents. I went into business with my now business partner. He put in roughly the same. He had some cash behind him. And then we did some asset financing on all the kitchen equipment. The good thing about starting a restaurant, the bulk of the cost in a fit out is hardware assets that you can, although it's expensive, but you can actually get asset finance on a lot of that, lot of the cost of a fit out.
So 27-year-old lawyer, no experience, 12 months in law, no money, borrowed 90 grand from your parents. Your partner had 90 grand. You went into business. You don't cook, do you?
No, I'm not a cook. I'm not a hospo guy. I'd worked as a waiter at a cafe on Glen Huntly Road when I was 20.
Were you any good?
I was okay. I could carry 3 plates. I could say hello. So not really. I wasn't. I enjoyed it, but for me it was. I fell in love with Mexican food and Mexican culture in America, ironically, but we obviously did travel to Mexico. For me, I was really passionate about business, about people, and about creating a warm culture. Mexican food was just the vehicle to be able to do that. I could see a gap in the market. I could see that Aussies love Mexican, that the Mexican food we were serving here was really outdated. The passion for me was more around creating a guest experience and creating a great culture in the business. And the lack of hospitality experience forced me to keep things simple and also get advice. Like, I wasn't coming in thinking I know what to do. I didn't know what to do, which meant that we sought advice from chefs, from architects, from suppliers. And sometimes an observation that I've made is that when people feel like they've got all the answers and they're experienced in a certain sector, not just hospitality, sometimes those people are not overly open to getting advice, and that can harm them. Yep. But we were sort of fortunately or unfortunately in the position where we didn't know what we were doing, and we were forced to just work with great people.
How long did it take you to turn a profit?
We were actually profitable from day one. I mean, the good thing about hospitality is that you can, generally with the hype of, some of the media coverage and broadsheet, you can, often your busiest 2 weeks are the first 2 weeks that you open, if you get your marketing right. We over-invested in some hoarding where we boarded up the front of the shop front as we're doing the fit out to create that sort of hype, like something special is coming. And we opened the doors, and maybe it was just some fortunate timing, but we were chockers from day one.
All these shifts in the industry, are those changes sustainable? And how are you guys running profitable businesses with all these costs? And also, if staff's coming and going, like how are you building relationships with your customers?
A few questions there. How are we sustaining profitability? The honest answer is with difficulty. Things have really got to go. There's a number of things that really got to go right and fall into place to sustain a healthy profit. And when I say healthy profit, it's a profit relative to the fit out cost. If you're spending $1 million on a restaurant fit out, you want to be making a significant sum of money every year to justify that risk that you're taking. The way that we're sustaining, I think, long-term profitability is going to be in customers accepting the price rises that are happening and that are inevitable. And I think customers, as I said, understand that the price rises are required for these hospitality businesses to remain sustainable. Are we maintaining relationships with customers with the constant staff turnover? I think the turnover has been pretty extreme over the last year or so, but I think that's settling down. When we see a lot more international workers come back on the scene, the backpackers, the tourists, the students, I think that will just mean that there's more of a balance of demand and supply for workers, and we'll see less turnover. I think all hospitality operators are realising that, as I said, benefits, pay, culture, we really need to be. That's probably the most important thing that we can deliver as business owners, and the flow-on effect of that will be a great customer experience.
Just using a very simple example, because there's a lot of different opinions of how this is broken down. If a restaurant is doing $1 million of turnover, right? How much of that can go towards rent, staff, cost of goods, and what should be left for profit?
Yeah, it's interesting. So on $1 million of turnover, different models have different ratios. I know in fine dining, their cost of goods is usually closer to 20%, but their labour can be up around 40%.
So which is why fine dining doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah, but the cost of goods and labour combined is about 60%. Most models, the COGS plus the labour, is at that sort of around that 55 or 60% mark, maybe 65%. Doesn't really matter what the breakdown of those two are.
Right.
Whereas you look at a model like us, we're more close to 30% and 30%. So our cost of goods and our labour are both roughly around the 30% mark. But I really think your cost of goods plus your labour needs to be at about 60%. Occupancy cost, which is rent, really can't be much higher for us anyway, much higher than 10%. So we're up to 70% now. So you got 30% left there for maintenance, insurance, marketing, head office,
wages.
The
owner's wages.
Yeah, that's sort of in head office. This is even before profit. Recruitment fees, sponsorship fees, training, social. There's a lot in there.
Skinny now.
It gets skinny. So you start to add those up, and 10% you're doing pretty well. And the
10% profit.
10% profit, which if you're only turning over $1 million and you're making a 10% profit, that's $100,000. If you've spent $800,000 fitting out a restaurant, $100,000 a year, it's a 12% return. It's a pretty skinny return for the risk you're taking and the amount of money that you've invested. So really, I think the key metric is what sort of return are you getting on the fit out cost, and that with the risk that you're taking, I feel that really needs to be up 30, 40, 50%.
What gives? You can't pay less, you can't buy product less.
Well, this is where like the capital contributions can be really, really valuable, assuming that rent's still manageable. It's hard. It's managing your fit outs so that you are really budget conscious, where you can walk into a restaurant where there's some existing infrastructure that can really help put a cap on the cost of fit out. As I said, capital contribution. You've just got to really work hard to keep that profit, ideally slightly above 10%, but it's difficult.
So you get pitched properties probably on a weekly basis by real estate agents, shopping centers, landlords. Can you just walk us through what grabs your attention? When do you call BS? What gets you engaged? And what gets you excited and makes you prioritize those opportunities?
Well, first of all, for any retail operators out there, I would say try to ignore the pitches from real estate agents. You should be driving the property search. Find out where, do your research, establish a view on where your business is going to work, and you should be the one calling the real estate agents, because you know it's going to work. You can accept their calls, but your property strategy should be driven by you, not by incoming calls of pitches. I do get pitched, I listen to everything, but I've noticed, and my business partners observe this, that we're too reliant on sitting back and waiting for things to get pitched to us. We need to be more assertive in leading the property strategy. So I'd rather be calling you because you're leasing a site that I like, rather than you calling me that you're leasing a site.
Never happened though.
No. I think you gave me your wrong number.
Your last restaurant was in Sydney, in Surrey Hills.
Yep.
Can you walk us through the journey from the moment you heard about that property all the way till you signed a lease? And are you opening soon?
Oh, we opened last October.
Okay, so
that was a really long journey, unfortunately. I found it at first on Real Commercial.
So you found it, they didn't find you?
Yeah, we found it. And look, to be honest, our most successful sites, we've found the sites and we've targeted the sites. Our most unsuccessful sites have been agents coming to us saying, why don't you do a Fonda here? Not to say there was any bad intent in any of that, it's just we know where our brand works, so we've got to be more targeted in that approach. I found it on Real Commercial, but it was in an area of Surrey Hills City that I'd pounded the pavement for 2 or 3 years. And I just did the deal directly with the agent. In hindsight, we probably took too long, it dragged out. We could have sped it up. We were taking over a lease from a tenant that wasn't going well. So yeah, I found it. The agent was very open, and therefore I was very open.
So did he highlight the issues and raise concerns up front about the property?
Not really. The agent was Michael Burke from Crawlers Commercial. He was great to deal with. There weren't any real issues. He was just, it is what it is. There was nothing really to hide. We just got the deal done. It was a standard lease. The rent we were talking about from the get-go was market rent, so there was no sort of argy-bargy or fun and games. It was a pretty seamless process.